Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Fast Friday Facts for July 31. Hard to believe that July is now over and we're at this spot. I have my mask on today just to encourage those people who are going to be joining us in a live setting for school that this is a doable kind of thing, that we can work with this together and make this happen. As you know, we're in the middle of asking parents to complete a commitment form for the pathway that they are selecting for their student. And those pathway options haven't changed. They're the in-person learning and the interactive distance learning. We want to make sure that everyone out there is taking advantage of this opportunity to complete that commitment form. To do so, you just go to the Garrett County Schools website, and when you get there, if you scroll down to the section known as Latest News, you'll find a link there. You can also go to our GC reopening page, and when you get there, there'll be a tab that says 2021 Commitment Form. You can click on that and complete the form there as well. The deadline for completing that form will be this coming Wednesday, August the 5th, and that will allow for us to continue the process of determining who is going to be attending school face-to-face and who's going to be attending school in that distance environment. If you haven't completed it, again, we encourage you to do so. That data is going to be very important for those of you wanting to know who your teacher is, wanting to know what classes you're assigned to. This is how that will take place. The schools will have that information. It helps them to be more successful in being able to complete all that information and get it back out ready to go to you. We continue to work with each of our schools to address the questions that they might have that are specific to their questions. Over the last couple of weeks, we've attended every one of the schools, and we've been fortunate enough to have Carrie No and Tanya Watkins from the Garrett County Health Department go with us. As they've done that, they've given specific feedback for that school, and then we've continued to learn from them things that we can utilize moving forward in all of our schools. For those of you who've been viewing our Fast Friday Facts, you met Carrie and Tanya a couple of weeks ago. I guess it's been about 4 or 5 weeks ago now. It's hard to believe time is moving on like that. But they've been so helpful, as has the whole Garrett County Department of Health, and we appreciate that. A lot of the places that we've made it to at this point have been because they've been so supportive, and we appreciate their help. I want to reemphasize to you guys how much I, from a personal standpoint, hope we get back to in-person learning. I feel like that we've had parents who've worked incredibly hard to support students throughout this year. That was a challenge for you back in the spring, and you've done a great job with that. But I also believe that the work of our teachers can't be beaten, and we need those students with our kids as much as possible. And if we can't get to them face-to-face, we certainly will continue to support them through the interactive distance learning. But I do want you to know that from a personal standpoint, I'm really, really hopeful of getting us back into school and being able to do that. And each week I say to you that the student's safety is paramount and that the student's education is critical. And balancing those two things I know is important, and I know as parents you're working on that, trying to figure that out as our staff tries to figure that out and make sure that we're doing exactly what we need to do to make both of those things happen. Many of our staff's already started working. They are in their rooms working to social distance in a way that will allow kids to remove masks when it's appropriate, and working on how to make sure they're ready to support students if masks need to be up. We have people who are working on the interactive side as well, making sure they have their sites up and ready to go, that they're working with YouTube to make sure that they can record those things that they need to record, preparing to set up Google Meets and Google Hangouts and all of those things, again, to make sure that we can provide the best education possible for your kids. Our maintenance staff has been securing materials to clean and sanitize rooms, buses, cafeterias, restrooms, all those things that we need to do. For those of you who send your kids to us, we want to make sure we're providing the best space that we possibly can, the most secure space that we can, the safest place that we possibly can. The school administrators have been planning for students to come back face-to-face. They've also been planning for students who will be doing the interactive distance to make sure they're ready to go and support you, whatever that needs, whatever that may mean. And we appreciate all that effort that they're putting in. I continue to stay in contact with the Kentucky Department of Education and any updates that they have for the Healthy at School guidelines. Some of those things have changed over the course of time, and we'll be sharing all of that information as we move forward. We keep listening to what the CDC has to say to make sure that we don't miss out on anything there. This week, I had the opportunity to hear a video recording from the governor and a Skype session with the lieutenant governor to hear what their perspectives were. Also had a chance to hear from the chairman of the Senate Education Committee to hear what his perspective was. And I'll tell you, like you hear across many different places, there's some things that we just don't have everyone agreeing on at this point, but everyone does agree on many things, and I'll tell you what those things are in just a second. This week I also had a chance to speak with superintendents from our area, but also superintendents from across the state. And the one thing that's going on in all of those conversations is the safety of students and staff and educating students. Those are the things that everyone is thinking about, and there is no separation of that. It's not we're going to do one and not the other. It's we're going to make both of those things happen. And so we appreciate the fact that you're struggling with those decisions too, making sure that you know what's best for your family. So we'll try to continue to keep those two options available to you so that you can make those choices. We want you to know that there are expectations with either choice that you make. And just as I had this mask on a little bit earlier, and I'll put it back on now, if you come to school, that's something that we're going to need you to be ready to do in certain situations, but we're certainly going to try to get the masks down when we can get students outside and doing things of that nature. We have expectations also for those of you who will be in that interactive distance learning. So it doesn't matter which choice you make, there's some expectations that we need you to look at. So as you're signing that commitment form, please make sure you're taking a close look at those things. Again, we thank you for joining us for these kinds of updates. And sometimes we have more information than we do at others, but we'll always try to keep you informed about what's going on. Thanks for joining today. We'll be back with you next week. If we can add some additional information for you next week, we certainly will. Again, we look forward to you completing those commitment forms and getting those to us so our staff can continue to work on that, make sure they have everything ready to go. So again, thanks for joining today. Look forward to seeing you next week. Hope you have a great weekend.